Hello and welcome to What's Next. It's the Indy NXT Oval Series where we're here at The Rock, Rockingham Speedway in North Carolina. It's going to be a very interesting track here. It's kind of a bit of a interesting one with the freshly repaved surface. Still got a bit of character with some bumps entering turns 1 and 2. Bit smoother than its historical version in 3 and 4. But the awkward straightaway here that's got a bit of an extended curve to it, alongside the very, very tight, high-speed, high-banked corners here, Sophie. It's going to be an interesting one here from the track just under 1 mile here in Rockingham.
Yes, this is a track more known on the NASCAR side. In fact, I believe the only time I've seen this track is on the old school Papyrus, the predecessor to iRacing sims. I believe I remember the season openers on the early ones like NASCAR Racing 3 and NASCAR Racing were all at Rockingham because the sim did not have Daytona. So it is a track old school sim racers know very well.
We're going to ride on board with David Powers here for his qualifying run. This is his first lap of 2, and as is typical for the Oval Series here, lap 2 likely to be faster than lap 1. You see Powers hooking wide on the outside through 3 and 4 here, trying to carry as much speed as he can for this second lap here. He'll tuck to the apron to shorten that run up on lap 2.
Yeah, the trick with the apron is, it cuts that distance down, but you got to be really careful. If you unsettle the car, that will hurt your straight line speed. Currently, it's Casey Lee on the pole with a 20.723. We'll see if David Powers can upset him.
Powers just barely pips out Nick Dornick.
Does, but he gets pipped right away. Casey Lee goes back to the pole. The top time is jumping around. Indy Kirkwood just jumped to the top of the point with the 20.609.
You want to talk about tight so far? The margin between first and fifth just 0.017.
And the margin between first and 10th, actually, I believe, is going to be less than a 10th. Giovanni Blackerby with a 20.705 is 10th. Indy Kirchenbauer is on pole with a 20.609. That is less than a 10th between first and 10th, Jacob. An incredibly tight field here.
Yeah, and we're going to kind of see that as you saw with the onboard from David Powers. It is essentially flat foot all around the track here from Rockingham. You've got that fresh pavement involved with the high banks here helping these cars rotate. The only thing we've kind of caught out in the first couple of instances of hitting this track is it's going to be a bit tricky on cold tires for the first 3, 4, maybe 5 laps here to start this race off. But once the tires get underneath these cars, it's going to be kind of a battle of who can keep their car in the right place at the right time, kind of nestled on the lower side of the track. Will not surprise me to see drivers utilizing the apron around here to try to narrow up the amount of distance they're having to cover here, Sophie.
Yeah, it will not be a lot of margin for error here for sure, Jacob. One of the things that we have seen in the practice session just before is cars running very tightly close together. It's very difficult to pass, so you got to really time your run and really make it count. And we'll see what everyone can do here at The Rock.
Strength of field tonight just over 4,000. Here from Rockingham, we're good to have current series champion Dylan Vilashinsky back in the field. He's had some scheduling conflicts the bulk of the season, but good to see him back out here in the field. He's lined up 6th as it stands. Looks like Aaron Kovnat is not going to take a qualifying time just yet. He's got another minute potentially here to play with. We'll see if qualifying gets shortened by the stewards or not, but very, very tight field here, all the way down to Chris Fletcher, just a little over 2/10 away from the pole here, all the way down in 12th. 14 cars taken to the field tonight of a potential 24, so it's going to be a very, very tight race top to bottom, and it's going to be who can survive, I believe, 55 laps in the main event here tonight, Sophie.
Yeah, it is 55 laps, and again, I think tire wear might end up playing a little bit of a factor here, as the track temperature, Jacob, is 42 degrees Celsius. That's just over 100 degrees Fahrenheit for those using the Freedom units with the bald eagle noises. So that's still plenty hot. And again, we have seen this car really loves driving off that right rear, Jacob. So one of the things that might play a factor, a driver like we saw last week with Nick Sudik, might be kind of watching their rubber and ultimately play a conservative and have where they have pace at the end where everyone who wasn't watching their rubber might be falling away.
Yeah, track temperature falling just 1 degree while we were discussing that, down to 106 Fahrenheit, 63% humidity, 10-mile-an-hour south wind, 82 in the air for the temp. And, you mentioned the tire wear situation. I watched a race this afternoon here from Rockingham to kind of get a better idea of what we were in for here tonight. And it does look like if you can get multiple cars working together behind the leader can be reeled in and potentially passed, kind of similar to how we've seen Motegi race in races gone by. But we're in for a different one here tonight from Rockingham, so let's get to the starting lineup here, Sophie, as cars hit to the grid. Will you take it away?
Yes, on the pole is inaugural champion Indy Kirchenbauer with a 20.609. Alongside him is Corey Finch, who put in a very strong qualifying position to line up on the second spot. Casey Lee in the Uma Musume machine lines up P3 alongside David Powers, currently fighting for a championship. He lines off his challenge from P4. Nick Dwornik, the Canadian, lines up at the end of the top 5 in P5 on the inside of row 3. Now, defending series champion Dylan Vilashinsky is lining up P6. He won't be repeating this year. He's been absent for the most part. Chris Wetz lines up P7, and then Zachary Alton in that Pabst Blue Ribbon machine lines up in P8. Treston Fortston in the Lizard machine for Track Rocket lines up P9 alongside Giovanni Blackerby, who's won a couple of races earlier this week, so look out for him to move through the field. He rounds out the top 10. Taylor Thurman, for those in the Tafosi watching in chat, he's lining up P11 alongside Chris Fletcher in P12. Sean Gellert of the Netherlands lines up P13, the last car to take a time. And then Aaron D. Kovac did not take a time. He lines up P14 shotgun on this field.
Do it for the starting lineup here from Rockingham. We do only get one pace lap here, as despite being listed at 0.94 miles, iRacing still treats it as if it were 1. So we'll get lights out on the pace car, go green this time. Field will get put in control of Indy Kirchenbauer. He's doing some tire warming here as they exit turn number 2. We'll see how these drivers get underway here from Rockingham for the very first time in series history.
Yes, that iRacing automation-esque sedan bringing them under a slow pace here. And now we are going to see that car duck off into pit lane and put the field in control of Indy Kirchenbauer, that votive racing machine. Jacob, give us the call.
Here they come off turn number 4.
Green flag,
and Indy will go early here. It's a good launch heading ahead of the field here. Lee is going to put Finch under pressure into 1 and 2. They'll be side by side between both second and fourth.
And Lee has the position ahead of that Bobby Rahal tribute paint of Corey Finch. He's got Nick Dwornik just behind him. David Powers tucked into the 5th place spot. Looks like the high side kind of lost out there on that start, Jacob.
That's kind of the telltale sign. We're going to see the bottom definitely be preferred here. You see most of the field strung out single file so far. A couple stragglers off the back. If I believe that's going to be Giovanni Blackerby in the 9th spot. We've got a gap back to Sean Gellert and Treston Fortson as Gellert makes the move for 10th. Drivers already using that apron.
Yeah, they are fanning out, trying to find every inch of the track. Dylan Vilashinsky trying to work the high side. I've already heard in chat someone asking, why are we lifting in these cars? And David Powers chimed in chat saying, you will not last the full 55 laps if you do not lift. So some tire conservation knowledge being passed down through the voice chat in this lobby, Jacob.
Yeah, certainly no surprises there with as much corner load as these IL-15s are subject to around the high banks here in Rockingham. You see pretty much the whole field is committed to running the apron down the front straightaway here. That is fair game, fair use, as long as you don't re-enter and cause incident, at least based off of precedent from the iRacing stewards. We've got, I believe now, 9 cars under a blanket here to lead this field. Back to Zachary Alton in that Pabst Blue Ribbon machine. They'll head off of turn 4 again to pick up lap 6. Kirchenbauer's led all 5 so far.
Yeah, and I just heard Dylan Vilashinsky offer a complaint about how difficult these checkups are in the draft, as we see everyone just nose to tail as they are just trying to follow the leader here, not give up that bottom, not give up any track position. And Jacob, I'm going to wonder as the race kind of gets on, will people start getting desperate? Will we see some people clip the grass maybe when they go down to run that apron?
I think the bigger thing we may be more likely to see is to see cars maybe drive all the way down to the inside wall down the backstretch. I caught some cars trying to do that in races earlier on this evening, so it'll be interesting to see as the race continues, at what point do people start using more of that paved surface to maybe make a run or make a move stick. As we see almost 3 wide in the back there between Powers, Blackerby, and Vilashinsky.
Yeah, and Vilashinsky kind of got really shuffled out there. He has not been having a good race. He's going to get shuffled all the way back behind, I think, Zachary Alton, more than likely. He'll be at the end of that line. One of the things, Jacob, you have to think about as a driver, right? If you're thinking about going down there, what if you get a run, you don't clear that person, they might not let you back up, and they don't have to let you back up, Jacob. So how much of a risk do you want to take? If you're a driver like David Powers, you're thinking about a championship. Finishing 5th is certainly better than a DNF.
Yeah, and we haven't mentioned points so far, at least not extensively throughout this season so far, but it is a tight points battle still between Kirchenbauer and Mr. Powers, David Powers, trying to go for his first. Indy's trying to pick up another one here in the 4th season of the series. He's put on a solid turn of form here kind of through the midway point of the season as we work to the back half here, picking up a number of wins already, leading this race fairly confidently at the front. As you see, Vilashinsky hung out to dry at the back. He's going to maybe start to lose this field if he keeps hanging up high like that.
Well, one of the things I was seeing here, David Powers is also kind of peeking up a little bit in the corners. And one of the things I'm wondering here, Jacob Ray, is we see Giovanni Blackerby giving it a shot. As he's looking to go around the outside of David Powers, will he clear enough to be able to get down there, Jacob? Or will he find himself jumping out the way Vilashinsky was? But one of the things I was wondering here, Jacob, is David Powers kind of popping out a little bit to get some clean air to maybe help preserve that right rear tire? Because again, like he said, if you're flat out the whole time, you will crash, you will burn off that right rear. Maybe David Powers is looking to keep his tires in a prime condition, so he might be in a position to challenge Kirchenbauer, some of these other drivers ahead of him, when the race is over.
Yeah, you got to imagine with him being about 5 cars deep, you know, he's running along in the 5th spot on this inside lane here. He's maybe able to lift a little bit more on the entry, roll the corner back. Has to trust, obviously, Blackerby behind him now. He's not going to get run over there, but certainly going to be interesting. Blackerby to the apron.
He's so low already. He immediately shot the apron off the corner there, and he just kind of muscling his way into that 5th place spot. And Powers is the big loser. He got shuffled out. He's going to fall in just behind Chris Wetz. An aggressive move from that young man.
I think Nick Dwornik might have caught the grass that time, but Blackerby committed very early to that shot to the apron, almost immediately on the exit of turn 4 there, that last time by. Makes the move on David Powers.
If I'm Dwornik, I probably watch that, and I'm going to be looking out for that kind of a move early on.
Yeah, you see Dwornik and Finch there. They're friends. I'm not sure if they'd call it a team over there with Dwornik and company, but they've been putting on some solid runs here in the Oval Series. They've been knocking on the door of podiums both on the road courses and the ovals. They're running just outside. I guess Finch is on there, Dwornik just off of it. Maybe looking to pick up some spots here as we work on to lap 18.
No, and a shout out to Casey Lee. Casey Lee's been running some pretty solid races here, just not really able to lock in a podium position, but he's now in P2 just behind Kirchenbauer. Excellent qualifying from that Uma Musume car.
Now we'll try to get a bit further up in the air with some aerial cameras here as they head down the front straightaway. There's that Uma Musume machine for Casey Lee.
And we have trouble for Taylor Thurman, he is a wingless warrior right now. He has no front wing. So if you're in the Tifosi, your driver is having a tough night, as he is now in 14th with no front wing.
All on his lonesome, working down the back straightaway, and right now he's about 15 seconds behind the leaders here. We're going to get to gaps so we can get an idea of just how far between the cars everybody is. You see kind of a 10th between most of these cars inside the top 9 here. Big gap back to Chris Fletcher, about 3.5 seconds there. Then you've got Kovnat, Jellard, Fortson behind him, and then Taylor Thurman all on his lonesome. Probably about 10 seconds ahead of the leaders now, trying to nurse that car around, maybe catch a yellow here before he comes down the pit lane.
Yeah, he's got about 5 seconds of gap between himself and Kirchenbauer. If he gets a yellow, he is very lucky. Might want to buy a lottery ticket after this one.
Blackerby kind of the lone car up high. He's being looked to the inside by Zachary Alton in that Pabst Blue Ribbon machine. Blackerby will clear back down. He's kind of been the only one willing to risk running maybe a half lane higher or maybe almost a full lane higher than the bulk of the field around him. He tucks down onto the apron with the rest of the field here. So we work on to lap 23, I believe.
Yes, I just want to correct for Gary. P1 Broadcasting does not condone gambling. Yeah, they are catching Taylor Thurman quite rapidly due to Thurman not having a front wing. He is really not going to be able to carry the kind of speed that everyone else can, Jacob. They're catching him about a second every other lap. So it won't be long before they have lap traffic to contend with. And one of the things, Blackerby goes low again. He makes that move work. Dwarnick gives him the space.
Dwarnick's trying to stay in the draft to Finch ahead. Finch is going to try to give him a little bit of something. He's going to get pushed out of the way, I think. There might have been contact on the entry there.
Muscled his way out of the way there through turn 3 and 4. Now Dwarnick has Alton underneath him. Will he be able to slot back in line, or will he get hung out to dry further? Everyone's going to have to kind of look out for that move from Blackerby. That is a very aggressive move that he's pulled now twice on people.
He just seems to get that momentum timed just right to sneak to the inside before the rest of the field gets to the apron. So he's worked his way up 2 spots now with that maneuver, up to the 4th spot. He's going to be trying to get past Corey Finch ahead here. So it's been Kirchenbauer the whole way thus far. We're just working past the halfway mark now as we work on to lap 28 of 55. And we'll see if anybody can mount a challenge here late in the going. We talked about tire wear, and that may be of bigger impact for these cars that have been further up the field here, as Blackerby almost looked on the inside of Finch on the exit of 4 there. He's got a big run down the front straightaway here. Single file, nose to tail. That's Chris Wetz at the tail end of the train here of 9 cars. You see Powers ahead of him, Vilashinsky ahead of that. Alton, Dwarnick, Blackerby, Finch, Lee, and Kirchenbauer leading. They still have yet to reel in Taylor Thurman, I believe.
They are close. He is 1.5 seconds ahead, Jacob, and Kirchenbauer put out a request over to VC that Thurman stay high if possible, to kind of just let this long train go. There is no tire changes in this race, Jacob, so it's not like Thurman when they get a caution, you could stay out and get a wave around. So if you're trapped a lap down in this race series, pretty much your race is done when it comes to being on the lead lap.
And here they come up on Thurman as they enter turns 1 and 2. Thurman will stay high here. Does get tight on the exit here. He'll stay hung out nice and close to the wall. Fortunately, there's a good bit of track down the backstretch here for the rest of the field to contend with. He'll be passed by all the way back to Nick Dwarnick through 3 and 4 here.
Zach Alton looking to get him, as well as David Powers and others.
And that'll put Thurman to the tail end of this lead train of 9 cars. He'll obviously have the last couple stragglers with Fletcher on back to contend with later on, but we've stayed green so far. as we work on to lap 34 now. Kirchenbauer is led from the poles all the way so far.
Vilashinsky caught the grass there a little bit, coming off of 4. Sorry to interrupt, Jacob.
No worries there. He'll lose a spot to, I believe, David Powers here down the back straightaway. Vilashinsky holds tough on the outside, and big bobble for David Powers. Maybe hit the apron there through 3 and 4.
And we are looking at the group that is formed just a little bit on the back end there of Sean Gellard and Aaron Kovnot. They've been trying to swap, and they're trying to catch up to that group. That gap is about 3.9 seconds or so. So that's quite a substantial gap. They're going to have to really put in a lot of hard work as we're working lap 36 of 55 to try and catch up.
Yeah, we'll get back to the group at the front here. It is still Kirchenbauer over Lee with Finch in tow. Blackerby looked to the outside that time. He's going to get...
Warnick is trying to get underneath of him now in revenge for the move earlier a little bit there, Jacob. Not quite able to do it, but he did try to force his way under.
Yeah, there might have been a little bit of netcode contact in the entry of 1 and 2 there, but Blackerby holds on to that 4th place spot for now. Of course, he made big advantage of that dive to the apron off of turn 4 a number of laps ago to pass Dwarnick. Is Dwarnick going to get a run to the inside here? Blackerby not able to quite hold the bottom. He's going to maybe lose this spot here. Very close.
Yeah, we've seen that move from Blackerby where he's really cutting the car down, and that's really asking a lot of the right rear. Maybe he hasn't really been looking after his stuff, but he is holding on the high side surprisingly well. As looks like Finch caught the apron there a little bit, lost a little bit of momentum.
We're on to lap 40 now, and Blackerby's been hung out on that outside lane. He's been fighting tough, been able to hold the draft or hold enough speed on that outside lane to stay in position here alongside Nick Dwarnick. Might have been slight contact there in the center of the corner. Dwarnick inches ahead here off the exit. You see he's getting kind of bottled up behind Finch on the exit there.
Yeah, one of the things I've noticed is Blackerby cuts back in, now gets back into 4th place. He was really trying to side draft him down the straightaway, really running Dwarnick tight to try and kill any momentum that Dwarnick had. So they're now all looking for a way by each other as Blackerby moves to defensively there to try and keep Dwarnick behind.
Now, let's actually see if we can hop on board with... Ooh, Dwarnick!
Dwarnick goes below the white line there, really trying to force the issue as we're entering the closing laps of this race.
Oh, no!
Trouble! Trouble!
That's Zachary
David
Alton.
Powers is wing. Zachary Alton.
And that'll bring out a caution for the first time tonight. We'll have to see exactly how that started. It looked like Dwarnick maybe checked up on the exit of turn 4 there. We'll catch up to him, reel the cameras back.
Oh, my goodness.
So here they come through 3 and 4.
I think I heard what happened over voice chat. And I believe what I heard from Dwarnick was he accidentally hit his pit limiter on the exit of 4.
Oh,
and that caused a checkup, which then resulted in David Powers not knowing about it and running into the back of Zachary Alton.
Yeah, we'll ride on board with Powers through that as well.
Yeah, and you just see Alton, there's just a sudden stack up. So now Powers has to get a new nose. He's going to have to go to the back. Taylor Thurman's going to get his nose repaired, but he's already a lap down. He needed that caution earlier.
Yeah, so here they come through 3 and 4. Here's Powers on board. You see Dwarnick there. He's trying his darndest to stay off the back of Blackerby, and then probably right about here is where the pit limiter comes in. Alton gets in the back. Powers just noses it into the back of Alton. Nowhere for Powers to go. That sends Alton into the outside wall. Big long slide down the front stretch, and we'll bring out the caution. Powers comes down the pit lane to repair that machine. Will stay on the lead lap, so that's a good break for Powers.
Yeah, tough break for Zachary Alton there. I mean, there's really not much he could have done in that situation. Again, it just, from what I heard over voice chat, basically what ended up happening was basically Dornick accidentally hit the pit limiter, right? Hits the pit limiter accidentally, and that just kills his momentum, and then Alton has to check up, and then Powers just runs in the back of him. Just completely unintentional. Sorry, Jacob, I was hearing so much crosstalk over VC as Nick Dornick has been apologizing profusely for that mistake.
It's just kind of the nature of the beast when you've got essentially the entire field stacked up nose to tail, very, very close together. There isn't a margin for somebody to just slow up a potential 20, 30, 40, 50 miles an hour nearly instantaneously on the exit of the corner like that. And I think we were fortunate for it to be, you know, the 2 or 3 cars that got involved with it. Powers gets off more or less scot-free, has to put a front wing on it, maybe has some additional damage there. We'll see. But unfortunate, yes. Zachary Alton gets the short end of the stick, being the first car on the scene there. But we're about to head back under green for the final 10 laps here from Rockingham. It's been something here, Sophie. Let's see if Indy can hold on for another 10 laps here, as he's led them all so far.
Yes, the field's in the hands of Indy Kirchenbauer as that sedan of generic make dives in the pit lane, and Kirchenbauer goes right away. We are back underway at Rockingham, and he has left Casey Lee behind, but he's going to close right back up in the draft.
Yeah, give it a couple laps, but a couple laps might be all it takes for Kirchenbauer to get his footing here from Rockingham. He put on a good start, was able to hold on to this lead position. He's going to try to do the same here as we work on to lap 48 of 55. Lee's reeled back in. You see kind of a sizable gap back to Corey Finch as well. Field will start to contract up to the back of Kirchenbauer as they head into 3 and 4.
Yeah, Casey Lee right back to where he's been all race, right behind Indy Kirchenbauer. Corey Finch just drifting behind him. Now, if you were anyone in this race, Jacob, who would you want to be right now?
Well, I'd like to say Indy here. He's controlled this race so far. It takes a considerable amount of effort, seemingly, to make a pass, especially on a car in clean air. We're going to see if Lee can take a shot at it. He won't this time. I suspect it's going to come down to a last lap maneuver somewhere around the just under a mile speedway here in Rockingham, and we've got the field lined back up on the bottom, back to Nick Dwornik in the 5th spot. You see Vilashinsky working the outside lane. At the tail end of that train, Chris Wett's off in the background in that plain white car. We're going to get 5 to go as we work lap 50 of 55. Kirchenbauer still holds on to it. The field is contracted right up nose to tail. You see another group behind them, likewise the same. Through 3 and 4, everybody nose to tail.
Again, we are within the last 5 laps here. Lap 52 of 55. 4 to go. Casey Lee, can he find any way by? Starting to look a little bit underneath that white line, Jacob, but not really able to close the gap and get there. Maybe if he lets the car drift up half a lane and then tries to cut down, that can help him build the momentum to get a run, Jacob, but really tough here at Rockingham.
3 laps to go as we work lap 53. We're going to get back to the slightly higher in the air camera here as they head through 3 and 4. Lee gets a good bound of momentum on corner entry. Not going to have the same on the exit, seemingly. They'll tuck down to the apron once again. 2 to go this time.
Yeah, it's really tough. If you have a big run on entry, there's a good chance you're going to need to scrub to get the car down there on exit, as he's now tucked up under the gearbox of that Votive Racing machine. Is that Uma Musa May car? Not able to get there this time. White flag is in the air. Casey Lee looking low, trying to find anywhere he can. Not able to find anything down the back straight. He'll have one more chance possibly with the run out of 3 and 4. Kirchenbauer weaving a little bit to break the draft. Uma Musa May machine looking down the middle, but it's going to be Indy Kirchenbauer winning at Rockingham. Casey Lee in 3rd, and Corey Finch coming home in third. Why don't you give everyone the rest of the order, Jacob?
Yeah, we'll verify that. Looks like Blackerby maybe lost some spots in the closing stages of that one. We'll see maybe what happened there at some point here, but I suspect Indy's going to get to celebrating real quick here, so somebody blew an engine. Not quite sure who that is up on the outside wall there, but we'll get zoomed back on in on the machine for Kirchenbauer. Still burning down here from Rockingham.
It looks like Blackerby got a little shuffled out there, and that was what cost him the positions that he lost.
Let's run through the finishing results, as there was a good bit of shakeup as Kirchenbauer has disappeared. Looked like Sean Jellard was maybe going for a strike on him, but we'll run through the finishing results here. It's the Conga King winning another Conga-style race here from Rockingham. 0.086 the margin back to Casey Lee in the second spot. Corey Finch will round out the podium ahead of Nick Dwornik. Chris Wetz will round out the top five. Giovanni Blackerby will settle for sixth ahead of two-time and reigning series champ Dylan Vilashinsky. Good to see Dylan back in the field here from Rockingham, which I believe, as he's mentioned before, is his home track. Aaron Kovnat, first time we've seen him, pulls off an 8th place finish here. Good to see a solid run from him. Chris Fletcher in 9th. Points leader going into this race, David Powers in 10th. I'm not sure if that will stand following this one. We'll have to check later on in the show here if he holds on to the points lead heading into the final 4 rounds or not. Working our way to the rest of the field, however, you've got none other than Sean Jellard in 11th, Treston Fortson in 12th. Last of the 2 cars on the lead lap, we of course saw Taylor Thurman with his one-winged car go a lap down in the opening stages here. And of course, Zachary Alton just nowhere to go when Nick Dwornik hit the pit limiter out of turn 4. And we'll wind the tapes back, get some automobiles on the screen, see if we can hunt down the likes of Corey Finch and friends. Make sure everybody knows where we are, for one. All right, I've been informed Corn Dog, who I believe is Corey Finch, might take a couple minutes here. So, actually, I think we've got him. I think that might be Corn Dog there. We'll get him on up here shortly once we can track down his IL-15 around the course here. And there we go. We'll do a rear chase on that and get his run here tonight. Started on the outside of the front row, holds onto a podium spot. We'll get him on up here, see what he has to say for, I believe, the first time we've had him on up here. Corey, Jacob Collins, Sophie Connell, P1 Broadcasting. You got us?
Yeah, I got you.
Well, you started on the front row and kind of were in contention at the front all night long. Maybe had the rough go of things on the initial start here, being on that outside lane. But talk us through this race. It's kind of unlike something we've seen in a while here in the Indy NXT Oval Series. Kind of single file wrapping around the bottom, very, very high speed. High octane action here from Rockingham.
Yeah, well, you said it. That was pretty much the name of the game. Just protect the bottom at all costs, and try not to run over the guy in front of you. Yeah, I was kind of bummed I lost that position to Casey there on the initial start. I probably could have rode around in second for 55 laps, but I'll take it. Brought it home clean, first podium in the series, so I'll take it for sure.
Yeah, we heard from Dylan over the voice comms at some point that the checkups deeper in this field were a bit rough to deal with, especially early on in this race. Do you have maybe some comments to make on that further up as being maybe the second or third car in line here, how you were kind of handling the slight variances in speed, especially on corner exit here from Rockingham?
Yeah, it didn't get too hairy up front. Me and Nick ran one last night, and it was a little bit rougher in that one with the wash-ups on corner entry. But the front two were pretty much keeping it within the front or the bottom lane and a half. So there wasn't a whole lot of variance going on there. So it's pretty easy just to stay in line. And I was content with doing that. I was in third, and I was like, you know what? I would rather just stay here in third and get a podium and not wad the field up, and that's what I did.
sometimes you just gotta ride with the race you're dealt, and I think we know that about as good as anybody here at P1. Sophie, you got anything to add for Corey tonight?
Well, Corey, was there anything you were worried about during that race? I mean, we saw Giovanni Blackerby kind of make some aggressive moves towards that lower apron there. Were you worried at all? Maybe he could get by you there for that final podium spot, doing a similar move to he did to your, I guess, good buddy Nick Dornick.
Yeah, yeah, I saw that in my mirror, and it definitely got me worried. I was protecting the bottom a bit harder after I saw that, especially on the exit of 4 when it jumps down to the apron. I made sure to really stay on that because he was looking pretty much every lap. Luckily, he didn't run me over, drove me clean, which I appreciate. But yeah, that was really my only worry, was just giving up the bottom.
Well, fear or not, you lock in a solid result. First podium for you here in the Indy NXT Oval Series. You know the drill. Friends, family, sponsors. Anybody like to shout out? Floor is yours, Corey.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I'd like to thank you guys for putting this on. It's been a lot of fun. I found out about this from my friend Nick Dwornik, so shout out to him too. We've ran every week of this so far, and it's been a blast. Me and him have gotten some pretty good finishes and are up there in the points, especially in our division. So it's been fun to kind of watch that develop each week and get to race with a whole bunch of fast guys.
Well, we'll certainly thank you for joining us and supporting the series week in and week out here, both on road courses and ovals, as I believe we've seen you on both. I know we've seen Nick on both, but we'll thank you nonetheless regardless. We'll see you hopefully out next time when the series heads to Darlington for another very, very tough track here in the Carolinas.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, guys.
That'll do it for Corey Finch. We have been informed by one Casey Lee that he is unfortunately not able to make it, but we will give him his due. He started third, made that initial pass on the initial start in the Musume machine, holds on to a second place finish here. Solid effort for them. Good points haul, coming up just one spot short. Played it nice and clean all night long. I mean, there's plenty of ways we saw kind of how aggressive you had to be to make passes around here with Giovanni Blackerby, and Lee holding on to second, just willing to play the follower of the Pied Piper, if you will, Indy Kirchenbauer here. Nobody does it better than the Conga King, as he was coined in the initial season here for the Indy NXT Oval Series. But we'll thank Casey for supporting the series as always, and hopefully get him in for an interview before too long here on P1. But last but not least, Indy Kirchenbauer goes 2 for 3 so far in our Carolina Triple Crown that we're kind of doing up this season. The last race will, of course, be next week at Darlington, but we'll get him on up here, see what he has to say. Indy, Jacob Collins, Sophie Connell, P1 Broadcast. You got us?
Yeah, I got you.
Well, this was probably very familiar territory for yourself here, being the inaugural series champ, where we saw a lot of races kind of play out like this one did here tonight. Single file wrapped around the bottom, where qualifying was kind of the biggest deal in the business here at the likes of Rockingham. Walk us through this race of having to manage an entire litter of cars behind you, navigating the apron, very low, very high-speed track here at Rockingham.
Yeah, it was pretty much just like how Kansas was. Of just, you put it flat out and just wrap the white line. And yeah, how Kansas, it was just like that too. I mean, you even had to do the apron here, such as other tracks we did in season 1, like Atlanta. So, yeah, it's just just disappointing. That just disappointing that this is the package that iRacing has given us, and but yeah, super happy on the win. Big SOF tonight, so that's huge for my points position. I just did the math. I should be in the lead by 80 points now, going into where we'll start getting drop weeks. So that will be big, and it should be a good last few rounds.
Yeah, obviously things can always continue to get better, continue to be improved. This was kind of the biggest question mark we had on the season coming into this one, is just how would this race, particularly on this more or less freshly paved asphalt here in the current iteration of Rockingham. But talk us through kind of the mental game you have to play around a track like this. Obviously, you've got a car kind of right off the back of you at all times here. You could never really run away. We saw maybe attempts to do that on the restart we had late in the going here to maybe build up a gap here. Is there maybe just some mental preparation you're doing each and every lap to kind of make sure you're going to hit your marks, especially as you got to really, really nail every little inch around here?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I just put it at the tightest possible bars, just so because I mean, it was still easily sticking, just to reduce the scrub, and then I just was able to, yeah, just basically the only part that really was interesting was that entrance to the apron, the big change going to the banking to the flat, but yeah, I would just hope for a combo where either I could the leader could pull away, or the second place car could actually get side by side and we could have some close racing like such as Motegi. But um yeah, I'm glad that we won't have to, and um excited because going into next week, the Carolina Triple Crown. We'll see if I can get that.
Yeah, certainly plenty left to look forward to. We'll kind of recap the schedule for everybody at home before we close this show out. But before that, Sophie, you got anything to add for Indy tonight?
Well, Indy, question, just because in general everyone was kind of wrapping the white line there. How were you at all worried about your tires there with the higher track temp at all? Were you worried that maybe you wouldn't be able to hold the bottom with the race going green for the most part?
Yeah, it wasn't there wasn't really any tire wear there. I don't know how it was like in the dirty air, but my guess would be it was minimal. Yeah, just the clean air just had to defend good, and yeah, I was able to get a few good restarts there, which made it harder for Casey to get to my outside and nip me to the line going to the end, because I was pretty worried about that. But yeah, we were able to get this, and just excited because got the tonight to be able to win the first two legs of the Carolina Triple Crown, and I actually need Rockingham for the winning at every track in iRacing, so this got that checked off too.
Always good to hit many birds with many stones. Likely taking the points lead as well as we head into the final couple rounds here, Indy. You know the drill. Friends, family, sponsors. Floor is yours.
Yeah, I'd like to thank BGM Marine Associates, makes them in YouTube, Bayside Comfort Heating and Cooling, and I'd also like to thank everybody at Votive Racing, everybody watching at home. Thank you for putting on the broadcast, and thanks to just everybody for helping put this series on and showing up and getting a big 4K SOF, which is a big deal for this series. Ever since the first season, we struggled to get those, so that's awesome.
Yeah, it was good to see this race get a split, if you will. We had the magic 25 or 27, I think, before the timer closed out. But you pick up the win here on the top split once again, Indy. Go out and celebrate tonight. We'll catch you out next week at Darlington.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really excited for that one.
As are we. Put on a great race between Indy and Andre Castro last season. We'll expect likely more of the same between potentially some new competitors, Sophie. And this was the question mark on the season. We made it through, and I think at least so far that's going to put it at the lowest caution count on the season, tying it with Richmond and Nashville Superspeedway at 1. We almost got there, Sophie. We're making it to the last dozen or so laps caution free. I thought maybe we were going to snooker one in here for the first time in a while, but one caution here tonight. Fairly orderly race, all things considered, aside from the one incident we had here tonight. Do you have any closing thoughts here?
Mainly that it was a very tight, close race, Jacob, where we saw some people kind of make some mistakes early on. We saw Dylan Violet kind of lose the bottom there, and he got shuffled to that back of the line. Managed to stay out of trouble with that incident with Zachary Alton and David Powers after Nick Dwornik accidentally toggled his pit limiter. So very tight, close racing this week, and I suspect next week, as we saw a thrilling duel last time at Darlington involving, I believe it was Andy Kirchenbauer, Dylan Vilashinsky, and Brendan Trost. So some exciting racing here in the Indy NXT machine to come in the next few weeks here on the oval side.
Yeah, there was many contenders that were maybe early comers and goers. The podium from that last time out at Darlington did conclude with Dylan Vilashinsky. Andre Castro won that race by 0.091 over Indy Kirchenbauer, so he came up just short for the prodigy, the Conga King. We'll see if he can close out the Carolina Triple Crown with another win as he takes the points lead heading into the final couple of weeks of the season. But let's recap what else we've got going on here on P1 for the rest of the week. Of course, tomorrow night will be Horizon IndyCar Series action from Milwaukee. That'll start 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Gary Godso taking over for Mark Murphy on that one. Thursday night, we'll have AMA Grand National Series coverage from Iowa. Myself and Caleb Brashear. I'm filling in for Mark on that one, as Mark's still on vacation. 8:20 p.m. Eastern start for that one. Saturday will be the IndyCar iRacing Series from Portland. That'll take place 2 p.m. Eastern Time for that one. Sunday night will be a doubleheader from the Votive Racing League, rounds 2 and 3 from the Texas Motor Speedway, a day race and a night race. That'll start at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for that. And loop us back around to next week, where the Indy NXT Oval Series will be taking on Darlington, and we'll have the Indy NXT Road Series taking on, I believe, Montreal in place of the Markham Street Course. Recapping the last couple weeks of the schedule here for the Indy NXT Oval Series, of course, Darlington. Then we have another short track under the lights in Lanier in Georgia. The final of the Real World Alignment Ovals in round 11 at Milwaukee, and then rounding out the season at Kevin Harvick's Kern Raceway under the lights, half mile for 100 laps in California. We'll hope everybody would join us for those, and we thank you for joining us here tonight for coverage of the Indy NXT Oval Series here from Rockingham. Have a good night, everybody. We will catch you next time.